Hey there everyone, Pal here, and welcome back. We are in Star Citizen, and it's time for another ship review. Preview, not a review, definitely not a review, especially for this ship. This is the Drake Cutlass Black, and the Cutlass series is getting an overhaul. These ships are getting redone. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I wanted to cover now because this ship is going away from my hangar, and you know what? The ship has flaws, but I love this ship. There's something about this ship that I spent a long time trying to figure out how to describe, and I really couldn't. It took me a long time to figure out the best way to put this. And I think I have a good analogy that most people will understand, or at least many people understand. This ship, to me, reminds me of that old, beat-up pickup truck that many of us either have had, or will have at some point in our life. It's the truck that has 150,000 plus miles on. It's 10 plus years old. It's the truck that when you got a job to do and you're not exactly sure how it's going to go, things might get scratched, there might be some dents, it's the truck you take out for that. You definitely don't go to church in it, you don't take the wife out to dinner in it. It's the truck that the dog has more claim to the passenger seat than anybody else, and you don't care if he drools on the seat because that's what the truck is. It's a beater pickup truck. That's what this ship here reminds me of. The Cutlass Black is that, you know what? Things are going to get dirty. They're going to get dicey. We'll take the Cutlass out. And for that role, the way that is, I love this ship. There is a but coming up on this, but that's going to come at the end. Let's talk about the goods first. As I said, though, this ship is getting overhauled because of the but that will be mentioned towards the end of this video. They're taking this ship back, and they're going to redesign it. They're going to bring it back up. I don't know how much it's going to change. I hope it keeps the same basic aesthetic and style, maybe becoming a bit larger, a bit more robust. That's all just speculation, but I wanted to cover it now because, like I said, I really do like this ship. This is one of the ships. There's two in line when you first start out the game that I would say if you're not looking to do a pure combat role, there's two ships that I think are great for ships that you can use to haul cargo, do missions, run around with multiple people, friends in this ship, right? Have 2, 3, 4 people along with you for the ride. This is one of those two ships. We'll talk about the other one towards later on. That just, if you're not looking for pure combat, this is going to be one of those ships I think a lot of people gravitate towards. And it is, it's ugly, but I love it. The ship is set up on a weird type frame. This is something that we don't actually see a huge amount of in the game. There's only this, and there's one other Drake. Well, there's the Drake Firefly, and I forget the other one, but this is the entry-level one. So it does have relatively wide wings, I guess you would call these pylons sticking off the edge. These guys are actually part of the reason I love the ship. So this guy, and there's another one on the other side. I'm not going to crawl underneath the ship. These are your primary thrust vectoring nozzles. So these are going to be your change direction. This is going to be how you go ahead and pivot and roll. And these things are gimbaled. So this will pitch up, pitch back, pitch down. It's going to rotate around basically any way but pitch into where it's blowing up the ship is going to be controlling how you roll the ship. And when you're actually flying this thing, if you go into third person view, and we'll demonstrate this, you'll see these things pitching all over the place. The engines themselves, these are your primary engines in the back here. These are also somewhat pitching. Now, they don't have the in-out of the vectoring nozzles do, but these will rotate up and down depending on how you're going. So if you're flying forward and you decide to pitch the nose down, this guy here is going to pitch up. On the other side, it's going to pitch up. But these engines are also going to pitch down, I think, in order to bring your tail up and pitch your nose down. I think it goes down. So those would go up, which would cause a center pivot point, and these go down. I believe that's how it is. And if you wanted to go up, those would go down, and these would go up. But when you're flying this thing, when you watch this thing in third-person view or someone else going by, watching it do all this, it's really neat. It's quite nice. Now, there are some smaller vectoring nozzles. You can see one right there. There's a small one up on the front wings, which are mainly for your landing gear. There's also some laser cannons on this. There's some more vector nozzles up there. Yeah, so you got that. The engines are reasonably good for what this is. We'll talk about the pure performance later on, but, they're fairly large engine for a smallish medium-sized ship. In terms of firepower, right now I have it for the standard loadout. The standard loadout comes with a a size 2 Badger repeater. This is gimbaled, so you could remove this and upgrade it to a size 3 weapon. I really like the Badger Repeater. This is my go-to type weapon right now in the game. The Badger Repeater, and then there's the Bulldog Repeater. Those are my 2 go-to weapons just because of their rate of fire, their sustainability. You then have further out underneath the wings, you have these Sucker Punch Distortion Cannons. These are also size 3. These are not gimbaled though. These guys, are they size 3? What size is this? I should have probably checked this. Doesn't tell me. Yeah, they're those size 3 gimbals. I believe they're size 3. It does say 1-3. Turret 1-3. I think those are size 3. These guys are heavy hitting, lower rate of fire type weapons. These are your big punch type weapons. Now, if you've watched my 300 IVE series video, I talked very poorly about the Omniski 6 lasers. I did not like those lasers. These guys kind of fall in that area. Just with my joystick, my controls, I'm not accurate enough for the very slow firing rate, though I don't think these guys are quite as bad as the Omniski 6. They do definitely have a little more staying power. They don't seem to overheat, they just run out of energy. And because of the larger ship, the larger power plant, they do seem to have a little bit more power. They can fire more continuously. They're still somewhat limited in what you can put out. You also then have 4 missiles underneath the underbelly here. By default, they are Rattler 2 missiles. On top, there is a turret then. Now that is a manned turret. This one does not become a gimbal turret when no one's in it. We can go ahead and actually show off the first neat feature of this ship that I love. And I had this ship for a good 8 hours before I figured this out. There's a button here. Open it down. I actually knew about the ladder before that. I knew about the side door from the inside, but I couldn't figure out how to launch the ladder from the outside. Yeah, it took me a long time. We'll get into all that part there, but we can climb up here. And this turret here has 11 series of broadswords. So these broadswords, these are pretty heavy hitting weapons. In fact, these are some of the heaviest hitting weapons in the game. So you have some substantial firepower on this ship. You have a rapid fire cannon that you can use for long range until you dial them in. But then once something is within range and you have a good shot at it, you have double cannons here for the pilot that pack a punch, and you have a turret that also packs a punch. The turret has some drawbacks. We'll get to that in a moment. I'll go ahead and we'll put this ladder back up for now. Come around into the back, and we'll go into the ship the way most people are going to get in and out, and there is a big loading dock. For now, you can actually just come up to it and click on the loading dock. There's also another red button over here on the side, which is, I think, supposed to originally be how you open and close that. Part of that will probably go in the rework. And we're going to come up inside here to a reasonably large cargo bay. By far the largest up until this point in the game. This is quite a bit larger than the Avenger, and everything else is pretty much snub fighters. In the center here, you do have a docking collar, which gets opened by this red button. Right there it'll go. So this ship could actually be used for piracy and raiding. You can go ahead and close this collar. Now, around the cargo area, before we continue on, there are 2 bunks. There's a bunk on the left and a bunk on the right, and these are usable. Unlike the bunks in the Starfarer from the video a few days back, these have been implemented to where you can interact with them and lay down here. So this will work as a spawn point, or at least a save point. I don't know about a spawn point. All that still needs to be worked out. We can go ahead and get out of the bed here. Come on, get out of the bed. There you go. On the other side here, we have a mostly working toilet. A toilet that you can at least sit on. Obviously doesn't flush or anything like that. This here cracks me up. I just find it pure silly because you're right by the head of the bed. Come on. Uh-oh, I broke the game. There we go. I tried to free look and I kind of broke it. There we go. Yeah, your toilet is literally right by the head of one of the cots. If we get in here, you put your head right... Like, why not just go in feet first? Come on. You're not going to put your head... It's silly, but I find that hilarious. Yeah, you're in this with your crew and you're sleeping and someone's taking a crap 8 inches from your head. I don't know. I find that way too funny. I'm probably 12 years old on the inside. So you got that. Right here we can close the gate. You could also just click on it to close. As we saw the docking collar, there are 2 rumble seats. These also do work. So unlike the Starfarer, these have been implemented. You don't actually need these. Anyone in the cargo hold, I've never seen someone fall out of the cargo hold when this thing goes to warp. So the physics field, the physics engine in this area does seem to be pretty good. On this side then, the bottom button is our turret. Gonna go ahead and pop that turret. Now, as I said, the turret does have 2 Class 3 broadsword lasers. Are they lasers or are they considered cannons? I think they're considered cannons. And they do pack a punch. The problem is, yeah, you don't got much of a field of view when you're in this thing. You get very little field of view, and because this is like one of the older ships, the instrument panel isn't really good, and wow, my hands aren't actually on the joystick and controls. Yeah, it's just, you can't really see anything. So when you do hit something with those broadswords, they're gonna feel it, but you're gonna have a tough time in this thing tracking targets, I find. Let's see if we can kick out. So we're on the backside. There we go. There's our guy. Yeah. Oh, now his hands are on the controllers, on the joystick. There we go. Go ahead and lower back down. That's something that's probably going to get heavily changed. I imagine the turret's going to be updated quite a bit for the redesign. Now, to move up inside to the cockpit, once we get our control of our character back, we got another seat. Oh, this is the thrust vectoring nozzles. So these are your little turning nozzles, the big ones, one on each side. And go ahead and hit that button there, which will open this up, and we can come up inside there. Another button to close that door if we want. They really like these red buttons, and I gotta be honest, I love it too. And now up in here, we have two seats. We have the cockpit, or the pilot seat. The pilot seat is the front seat, and you'll notice it is off to the side here. This is so you can get in and out. When we actually do climb into the cockpit, it opens up and then actually slides back into the center of the ship, or center of the little cockpit area here. So slides over, and there we go. Now we are actually centered. We can't actually look back, but the navigator or engineer seat is still on the left. We'll get into actually flying this around a little bit later on. The cockpit is okay. It's not my favorite. I prefer the heads-up display with all the icons up here. You have to look at these little windows to see a lot of your icons, which is fun when you're hauling cargo or moving around, but in a dogfight, it's less than ideal. Go ahead and hold F. This is going to switch us back over and let us climb out. The back seat, then, this is going to be your seat for your engineer or your crew chief, whatever you want to call it. This guy will have access to, and this was shown in another video. I deleted that footage. But this guy can control your power to your engines, to your shields, to engine shields or weapons, can control the way your shields are deflecting, can control some of your weapons. That is what this guy does. When you're in this seat does not actually move over. This one always stays to the left here. Right now, this control panel, while you can during flight activate it and look at it and adjust things, they don't actually adjust the ship. They have not been implemented yet. Go ahead and climb back out. And then in here is the way to open it up to get back out that other ladder we saw. So that'll flip open, and then we can climb out onto the wing, which again lowered down that ladder there that I couldn't find before. So that is another part about this ship that I just really like. There's a lot of interactivity here. There's a lot of, like, just sitting around this ship in the hangar is kind of fun because there's so much interactivity that you can do. Now, in terms of raw performance, and I'm going to cut the video here, I'm going to show a little bit of flying around and everything, but in terms of raw performance, the ship is okay. It is reasonably fast. Well, it's not reasonably fast, it's kind of what you would expect. So 200 is its standard speed. Now, this is obviously before the post 2.6 speed changes, so 200 is kind of where it's at right now. It does have a boost. You can boost it a little bit, and the boost thrust does last reasonably long. Cruise speed, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it's fairly good. It's got a reasonably good range. In terms of combat abilities, it is okay. Again, the front cannons, you do have sustain with that front laser, and then you have big burst with those two, the sucker punch distortion cannons do offer a relatively good burst of real heavy damage on a target when you close in without having a huge amount of sustain on them. The ship also has reasonably good survivability. The shields on this thing are solid, and when the shields do go down, the ship itself can take a relatively good beating. What you will find happens, though, is the rear engines and the vectoring thrust vectors will get blown off on occasion. And if you end up losing both on one side, so both the vectoring nozzle and the engine on one side, you're kind of screwed. Your ship's just going to always be lurching to one side, as there's not enough compensation on the front of the other side of the ship to counter that, to keep you going. So you're constantly going to spin. Like if you lose both of them on the right, you're going to be constantly turning to the right. And those will get blown off somewhat easy. The good news is, if you do lose them, the hull integrity itself does still hold for quite a while. The ship will keep you decently safe inside for somebody else to come along and rescue you. Yeah, so you have that. The upper turret is unfortunately kind of useless right now. There's just not enough field of view for it. The electronics on it just aren't strong enough. But the ship has enough punch, enough survivability that you can go out and you can get into a fight with AI pirates, up to about 4 of them, and come away relatively unscathed. Any more than that, you're risking some danger depending on how good of a pilot you are. But, you know, for pirates with a ship of this size, it's not really designed to be a dogfighter, I think is pretty good. The best I've done is I've actually taken this into Vandal Swarm solo. I don't force anybody to carry me through this in the multiplayer. And I've made it to wave 7 with this thing before I finally ran out of missiles, flares, and all that and had to give up. And normally what'll happen is I'll lose the engines on the back and the ship just ends up in a rotation, you know, spin of death, and then I have to delete, self-destruct, and bring it back. So, I love everything about this ship. I really do. There's almost nothing about this ship with the exception of the turret that I don't like. I like the aesthetic of it. This ship to me, and I want to be careful how I word this, it reminds me of the Serenity from Firefly or the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Obviously not aesthetically, and obviously not size-wise. Both of those ships, from what we could tell, I mean, we know the Millennium Falcon was a bit bigger than this. It's probably closer to the Millennium Falcon than that. The Serenity was larger, and I really hope I'm getting that name right. The ship in Firefly, I think, was called Serenity. I'm a fan of it, but it's been a long time since I've watched that. But the ruggedness of this ship, the patched together, beat up, older class ship that you just keep running, that's what reminds me of those two ships. And I think this ship, if you want to roleplay as that kind of, maybe not evil, but that out for myself, smuggler type person that, you know who I'm talking about, the Han Solo or Nolan, whatever the guy's name was from Serenity, I think this ship for that element is going to be really, really good. I think a lot of people will find some real enjoyment with this ship on that side. Here comes the but, though. But, however, the problem with this ship, at least with where it is in game right now, since none of the ships are earnable, this ship costs $100. It's a $100 ship, right? And I think for $100, it's actually a pretty darn good value. The problem is, I said there were 2 ships earlier that will fill this role early game, that can do just about everything. They can handle themselves in a fight if they're not fighters, but they have cargo, crew capacity, great multi-crew ships to start off in the game. The problem is, the next ship up, the Freelancer, is $110. And it is, I would say, inarguably, is across the board a better ship. So this here is the Freelancer. That's the Freelancer. Now, it is a sleek-looking ship, and we're not here to review the Freelancer itself today, but we do have to make some comparisons. It is a sleek-looking ship. I like the personality of the Cutlass more. I'm not going to say the Freelancer is bad. I do like the design of it. I think it looks very futuristic. It fits right into the Star Citizen world. I just kind of like the personality of the Cutlass a little bit more. So that's the one thing going for the Cutlass. There's one other thing going for that I will say. However, everything else the Freelancer has, I would argue, is better. The Freelancer, for the pilot, it brings about 4 Tier 3 Tarantula Mark IIIs. These are heavy hitting lasers, and it has 4 of them compared to 2 relatively heavy lasers and a rapid fire laser. The Freelancer brings a total of 12 missiles by default. The Freelancer has a better turret. We'll have to actually get into the turret. The turret is, while it has less powerful weapons, I believe. Can we actually see it from here? I'm pretty sure the Freelancer has less powerful weapons on its turret. It doesn't have the broadswords. Can we actually see them? M3A laser cannons. So those are size 1s. Those are definitely smaller. But the turret is more usable. It's just more usable. Let's go ahead and, well, we're not reviewing that. But the turret on the Freelancer packs less punch, but is more usable. The Freelancer has a much larger cargo hold. It has another intermediary cargo hold right here. It has room for 4 bunks. 4 players can play this, and it has a cockpit area for 4 people. So the Freelancer is designed for 4 people, and 4 people could take the ship out, do quite well, do everything the Freelancer does, or everything the Cutlass does, but a little bit better. And it costs $10 more. $100 to $110. So I love the Cutlass. I do. I think it's an amazing ship. I love the design of it. But when you take the cost that the ships cannot be earned in game, so if you're getting one of these, if you're getting this ship, you're paying real world money for it. I almost can't justify it just because the Freelancer it's almost inarguably better. There's very few arguments you can make that the Cutlass does something better. The aesthetic, if you want to go for that smuggler, pirate, whatever type element, okay, then you got that. The one thing that the Cutlass does have that the Freelancer doesn't is the docking collar. So if you want to be a bounty hunter, you can use the docking collar to secure the ships. There is no low docking collar on the Freelancer. I'll say no low because there is a high one. There's a docking collar on the top, but that's for people to board you or rescue you, not for you to get out because you can't actually get up through it when you're on the ship. It is, right, is that it? Yeah, right there is the docking collar. So there's no way for me to actually get up in there to that. So that is the one thing that I think that the Crusader or Cutlass could do. Sorry, too many names coming out right now. The Cutlass for a pirate ship or a pirate ship could probably do a little bit better. But everything else, I love this ship. I just cannot recommend it at that price point. When it's earnable in game, when I can go ahead and earn the Cutlass, I'm going to be getting one of these as soon as I can probably. I love it. I do. But in terms of paying real world money for it, no. The extra $10, go for that guy. Now, the Cutlass does come in 2 additional variables, or variants. I can't actually show them as there are only hangar ready, although we're in hangar, they're just not available right now. There is the Cutlass Red, which is a search and rescue vessel. It is your Red Cross type search and rescue ship. Seems cool. Now, how much search and rescue is going to actually play into the game? If your ship dies, odds are you're dying with it. I don't see that being a huge part of the game, though perhaps they're going to do missions where they send you out to search and rescue for like a disabled retaliator or, Starfare or something. Then maybe the Cutlass Red would come in. The one that does have some interesting possibilities would be the Cutlass Blue. The Cutlass Blue is going to run you $150. That guy is a police version. As a police version, it has cells in the back. And unlike the Avenger system, where the Avenger cells are these very small ones, these look to be large enough cells that you can actually put players in, and I think there's like 6 of them. If you want to roleplay police, that would work. But I think the Cutlass Blue could also be a very good ship for bounty hunters or slavers, if slavers is something that we end up in game. Because of the docking collar and then the ability to hold 6 people, that would be a great ship to consider for that, which is something the Freelancer can't do. The Freelancer never has any cells. No version of the Freelancer does. Excuse me. So, yeah, everything's not lost for the Cutlass. And as I said, they are reworking this ship. If they took this ship and they made it 35% bigger, gave it a larger cargo hold, maybe lowered the deck or raised the top a little bit to give us a little more clearance room in here, added in another bunk for a 3rd person, because that way you have somebody in the turret and on the co-pilot seat to make it a 3-person ship, updated the turret, maybe gave it a little more firepower, then I think the Cutlass at $100 would be a great deal. We have to see how they actually modify it though. But as it sits right now, I love this ship, but I can't recommend it at the price point. If you're looking for a ship that's just going to be an all-around, I would have something that I can do things that aren't combat focused at the launch of the game, the Freelancer all the way, every day, unless you're really into that roleplay. So, I keep trying to talk myself back into the Cutlass, can you tell? Because I do like it. How many times am I going to say that, though? Alright, well that's about it for the Cutlass. I don't think there's much else to say about it. Hopefully we'll see an updated version of this in the next year. I'll come back and update this video and tell you that this ship is just all around better while maintaining a lot of the personality. Time will tell. Until next time though, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.